She dumped snow on my driveway for weeks. Fines didn't stop her. Complaints didn't scare her. But the wall I built, oh, that froze her rain in its tracks. It all started, as most HOA drama does, with something absurdly petty. My driveway, always freshly salted and perfectly cleared each morning, became the target of a daily avalanche. At first, I thought it was nature being cruel, maybe just snow sliding from the incline between our lots. But no. On the third morning, I caught her, shovel in hand, lips pursed like a self-appointed saint, flinging icy slush across the boundary. That was Lydia Hanford, newly elected to the HOA board and newly drunk on power. Her justification? Just keeping the sidewalks safe, she said, so smug you could hear it curdle. Lydia had lived here for years, but something about joining the board unlocked her inner dictator. Suddenly, she was quoting bylaws like scripture and enforcing rules no one remembered voting on. She treated the whole block like a snow kingdom she ruled by divine right. At first, I tried to stay civil, but the mountain of snow growing on my side was becoming a hazard. I shoveled it back once. Just once. The next day, I got an official HOA warning taped to my door for aggressive redistribution of seasonal debris. Real words. Real warning. So I documented. Photos. Videos. Timestamps. But Lydia was careful. Every time she saw my camera, she'd pause mid-shovel, smile like a step-forward wife, and say something like, "Just making sure your slope stays safe." Then came the email. She accused me of endangering the community with hazardous buildup because I hadn't removed her snow fast enough. I responded with photos. Her reply? A fake quote from a non-existent clause. Article 9, Section D.17. I checked. It didn't exist. But the HOA president, a man named Trent who always looked vaguely unwell, just shrugged. "Lydia's very thorough," he mumbled. That was the moment I knew I wasn't dealing with a neighbor. I was dealing with a bureaucratic tyrant armed with a shovel. So I built a wall. Operation Ice Barrier. I waited until a storm dropped enough fresh snow. Everyone else was inside, sipping cocoa. I was outside like a man possessed, using a snowblower, a hose, and a level of spite previously unknown to science. I began stacking snow in a clean line along the property line. Layer by layer, I sprayed it with water, letting it freeze overnight. Then more snow. More water. I did this for days. When the sun finally rose, a 5-foot-tall, glittering wall of ice stood tall and proud. Not a single inch crossed the boundary. It was defensive architecture at its pettiest. The next morning, Lydia arrived in her neon boots and HOA-issued rock salt. She marched out like she was inspecting troops. Then she saw it. She stopped. Her jaw dropped. "What is that?" she barked. "My driveway," I replied. "And this is my wall. My snow. I just gave it structure." She poked it with her shovel like it might dissolve. It didn't. She threw salt. It laughed. Figuratively. "This is a public hazard," she snapped. "Then call the HOA," I said, pulling out my phone and snapping a picture of her next to the wall like a disappointed museum curator. 2 hours later, she returned with Trent. He blinked at the wall. "This is new," he muttered. Lydia ranted. I calmly pointed out the wall was within my boundary, didn't block any pathways, and was, technically, just snow. Trent sighed. "It's ugly," he offered. "So are fake bylaws," I replied. That afternoon, for the first time in weeks, Lydia did not shovel snow onto my driveway. Victory. But it didn't end there. She tried a new tactic, salting her side aggressively so it would melt and slide into mine. Problem? Salt stops working below -6 degrees Celsius. It was -15 degrees Celsius that week. Her efforts backfired. Her salted pile turned into a slick mess on her own driveway. She slipped. Twice. I watched from my window, sipping cocoa like a Bond villain. Then came the email war. She accused me of redirecting runoff. I responded with a diagram, PowerPoint arrows and all, showing gravity did the redirecting. Neighbors began chiming in. Turns out I wasn't the only victim of Lydia's snow crusade. One posted ring footage of her flinging snow like she was blessing the earth. Another shared a photo of her measuring someone's lawn with a tape measure at midnight. The Facebook group exploded. She became a meme. Lydia, Queen of Ice. Someone photoshopped her onto the Iron Throne, but with shovels. Then came the pamphlet, a glossy trifold titled Winter Safety and Civic Duty. She made it, distributed it to every mailbox. It featured warnings like, avoid liability, remove the melt. One neighbor nailed it to a post with the caption, shovel your own snow. Someone else photoshopped her face onto the Night King. She doubled down, sent cease and desist emails to neighbors who made memes. One neighbor forwarded it to a local blog. The blog ran a story. It trended. With her power crumbling, a group of us called for a special HOA meeting to remove her. The clause existed, buried in the bylaws. We only needed 40% of homeowners. We got 70%. The night of the vote, she tried to spin it. Claimed her actions were in service of safety. Greg, a retired city inspector, calmly read her forged bylaws into the record. The room went silent. Then came the vote. Hands went up. Lydia was removed. 2 days later, she called the city. Claimed my wall was illegal. Officers showed up. So did a city inspector. The verdict? Wall was legal. On my land. No obstruction. Lydia tried to argue aesthetics. That sounds like a you problem, the officer said. Then she tried to sue. I showed footage of her crashing her car into the wall. You drove into a wall on private property, I said. She screamed. Called us a cult. Slipped on her driveway. Again. That winter, my wall became a landmark. Kids posed with it. Someone made a TikTok. Lydia retreated. But she wasn't done. She tried to stage a comeback. Created a fake recall campaign. Claimed she was wrongfully removed. Greg found she still had access to HOA files, including a folder called Community Watch. Inside, screenshots of our homes. Fake citations. A binder labeled Violations to Watch. We presented it all at the next meeting. She was banned from future leadership. The city fined her for unauthorized surveillance and illegal snow disposal. Even discovered she'd been using HOA funds to buy herself winter gear labeled seasonal uniforms. Her final humiliation came during the neighborhood's snow sculpture contest. Greg built a throne of fake citations. I recreated the wall and lights. Her entry? A block of snow titled Silenced Voices. She lost. We celebrated. The city awarded our street a beautification grant. Except one address was excluded. Lydia's. Her yard had become a local joke. Dead plastic tulips. A gnome face down in mud. She parked her Subaru diagonally across guest spots. Until the tow truck came. Kids cheered. She screamed. We toasted with cocoa. The wall stood tall. She came. She shoveled. She failed. And winter? Winter remembered.